All right, Secretary will read Senate Bill 242.
Senate Bill 242 by Senator Hill of the 6th and others. A bill to be entitled an act to amend Code Section 36-42-8 of the OCGA relating to powers of downtown development authorities generally, so as to provide that downtown development authorities may undertake projects regarding reducing energy or water consumption on property and for other purposes. The Senate Committee on State and Local Governmental Operations recommends that this bill do pass. Through with the order, Mr. President.
Chair recognizes the distinguished senator from the 6th. Present the bill. Don't worry, you'll get them.
There we go. Tonight I rise on behalf of Senate Bill 242. This is a very simple piece of legislation that essentially expands the footprint of downtown development authorities. For a brief history on downtown development authorities, they are created by general law in every municipality in our state, and they remain dormant until such time that each municipality decides to make them active. For this piece of legislation, it's specifically for the city of Atlanta as it relates to expanding the footprint of the Downtown Development Authority to include something further than just the central business district, which is defined by certain boundaries. So, by voting yes on this bill, we're allowing the entire city of Atlanta to use the provisions of the Downtown Development Authority. If there are no questions, I will yield the well.
You do have a question. Chair recognizes Senator from 46 for a question.
Thank you, Mr. President. Senator Yield.
I will yield.
You state this is for Atlanta only. If that's the case, why isn't it just being brought as local legislation instead of statewide legislation?
Because it is a statewide law, it had to be a general bill. Downtown development authorities applied to the entire state, and again, those downtown development authorities remain dormant until such time that they're activated. So to your point, I will further explain. If a municipality has enacted its downtown development authority, then this would apply to it as well.
Senator, further yield?
Yes.
In Athens, Georgia, where I'm from, we have a downtown development authority. It was created when a mall was built out of town, and the purpose, of course, was to revitalize downtown. And it is designated as a 16-block area in downtown. As I read your bill, if we pass this, we have now changed the boundaries of Athens Downtown Development Authority to include the entire county because it is a consolidated government, or certainly at least to the city limits, which is contrary to the intent of the citizens of Athens. I know that's why I wonder why this must apply statewide just to help Atlanta.
Well, it had to apply statewide because that was how the creation of downtown development authorities were. But specifically speaking, you are correct. If Athens is that big, then this would specifically increase the boundaries to within the territorial boundaries of the municipal corporation.
Thanks, Senator.
A few more questions. Chair recognizes Senator on the 33rd.
Senator Yale.
I will.
Having served on the Development Authority, isn't it true that there are interest rate advantages for corporations that come through a Development Authority to build with those bonds from a Development Authority in a commercial bank?
Was the question, are there advantages?
Isn't one of the advantages that people creating jobs can borrow at an excellent rate using the IRB bonds through the Development Authority?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Chair recognizes the senator from the 28th for a question.
Thank you, Mr. President. Will the senator yield?
I will.
Just for clarification, does this not also extend to these downtown development authorities, and it's pointedly made in line 24, any projects would have to do with energy consumption reduction or those things which develop energy from renewable sources such as solar powers?
Correct. In 2010, the General Assembly passed legislation authorizing these authorities, downtown development authorities, to provide financing for clean energy improvements to buildings. And about half the states have passed such legislation authorizing what are called PACE programs, Property Assessed Clean Energy, and Atlanta wishes to participate in this program.
Thank you, Senator.
Chair recognizes Senator from 23rd.
Will the senator yield?
I will.
Has the GMA taken a position on this bill, the Georgia Municipal Association?
They have not, but this has been brought to me by, I represent a portion of the city of Atlanta, and it was something that they asked me to carry on their behalf.
No further questions, Senator.
Oh, thank you.
Does any other senator wish to speak for or against the bill? Is there objection? Grant report of committee which favor pass the bill. Chair is none. Report of committee is agreed to. Shall the main question be now put? Are there any objections? Chair is none. Main question is ordered. Shall this bill now pass? Question on the pass of the bill. All those in favor of the bill vote aye. Those opposed no. Secretary unlock the machine. On the passage of the bill, the yeas are 36 and the nays are 7. This bill, I'm saying, represents constitutional majority, is therefore passed. Secretary will read Senate Bill 172.
Senate Bill 172 by Senator Jones of the 10th and others. A bill to be entitled an act to amend Part 1 of Article 2 of Chapter 3 of Title 20 of the OCGA relating to the Board of Regents and University System of Georgia so as to provide for a civil rights museum as a division of the Georgia Capitol Museum and for other purposes. The Senate Committee on Higher Education recommends that this bill do pass by substitute. The Senate Higher Education Committee offers the following substitute to Senate Bill 172. A bill to be entitled an act to amend Part 1 of Article 2 of Chapter 3 of Title 20 of the OCGA relating to the Board of Regents and University System of Georgia so as to provide for a civil rights museum and for other purposes. Through with the order, Mr. President.
Chair recognizes the senator from the 10th. I do not see him on the floor. Senator from the 10th. Senator from the 41st is recognized to present the bill. Nope. Senator from the 10th has arrived. He is recognized to present his bill.
Wow, thank you, Mr. President, members of this body. I was downstairs greeting about 35 students from the University of Pennsylvania, and I'm out of breath, by the way. These are students that travel all over the South on their spring break to learn about civil rights from Pennsylvania. Senate Bill 172 came to me from a committee that we passed here in the legislature 2 years ago that was signed into law by Governor Nathan Deal, by the way. And on your desk is a copy of a resolution from the Emil King Advisory Council asking this legislature to take this action to form a civil rights museum here at the state capitol. First of all, let me just go back and just thank the senator from the 46th, from the chairman of the Higher Education Committee, for his efforts in perfecting this legislation. This legislation is a project that we plan to undertake at the ML Council. It does not include any public money whatsoever. This is a project that we had planned to undertake for the entire year to fundraise so that we can recognize those heroes from the civil rights movement. Mr. President, if there's no questions, I would certainly ask each of you to please consider supporting Senate Bill 172 that simply forms a Civil Rights Commission either outside or outside the grounds of the state capitol that really furthers the teaching of this advisory council that we formed here 2 years ago and signed into law by Governor Nathan Deal.
No further questions, Senator.
Thank you, Mr. President. I yield well, and I wanted to, if I may, Mr. President?
Yes.
I have 35 students here from the University of Pennsylvania. They're making their way to the gallery. These kids are from my alma mater, and they've spent their spring break this past week traveling different sites within the South. They are intercultural, they're interracial, and they're really from the School of Alliance, that Diversity Alliance of a university that was formed. And at the proper time, Mr. President, I would like to recognize them when they gather in the gallery. Thank you, and I yield well.
Questions on the adoption of committee substitute. Is there objection? Without objection, committee substitute is adopted. Does any other senator wish to speak for or against the bill? All those in favor of the bill will vote aye. Those opposed, no. Secretary, unlock the machine. On the passage of the bill, the yeas are 50 and the nays are 0. This bill, MC Rex constitutional majority, is therefore passed. Secretary will read SB 94.
Senate Bill 94 by Senator Miller of the 40th and others. A bill to be entitled an act to amend Code Section 43-34-25 of the OCGA relating to delegation of certain medical acts to advanced practice registered nurses so as to revise provisions and for other purposes. The Senate Committee on Health and Human Services recommends that this bill do pass. Through with the order, Mr. President.
Chair recognizes Senator from the 40th. Present the bill. Please give the Senator your attention.
Thank you, Mr. President. SB 94 amends current language where we allow advanced practice registered nurses to order MRIs, radiographic imaging, such as CTs, MRI scans, etc. A couple of things here, folks, I think are very important. The senator from the 11th, who's a doctor, supports this legislation. The senator from the 52nd, who's a physician assistant, supports this legislation. We are the only state in the nation that puts any restrictions on advanced practice registered nurses. We had a lot of testimony on this. Speakers in favor of the bill for the Georgia Nursing Association, the Georgia Hospital Association, Children's Hospital, Emory Healthcare, Emory Medical, Emory Nursing School, Hometown Health, the Georgia Alliance of Community Hospitals. You know, I have a letter here that I got from Children's Healthcare, and I think it summarizes things pretty well. And you have to remember something. When we're talking about letting advanced practice nurses do this, everything is done via physician protocol. A physician has signed off on an agreement with one of these people to perform these services. And this is very, very critical, particularly more so in our rural areas. When it's all said and done, the radiologists read and interpret the MRIs or CAT scans. It doesn't put anybody out of business. And the only argument I heard against this bill was maybe we'll have too many tests in medicine. Well, I'll assure you, if we have too many tests in medicines, it's not from people doing MRIs. And I find it ironic that right now we're getting ready to pass a bill over in the House dealing with kids and concussions, and yet we're worried about whether or not somebody can perform this service. So I urge your favorable consideration. I know there's been some talk out in the hallway, and quite frankly, I don't like the idea if people start talking about trading bills. Decide the merits of a bill on what it says. And there's something wrong when we're the only state in the nation that has this kind of restriction. Mr. President, I'll be happy to answer your questions.
Chair recognizes Senator from 34th.
Where am I looking?
Thank you, Mr. President. Will the senator yield?
Yes.
Senator, a patient such as I who has to have a number of tests annually, how does radiation exposure, or does radiation exposure expose me to anything further by this legislation?
Well, I would say to you that if you're going to have tests done by a physician, it's going to be, if you're going to have a test done, excuse me, Senator, if you're going to have a test done, it's based on a protocol agreement from a physician, between the agreement between them and the nurse. So there's a physician involved in this, and furthermore, it's going to be a radiologist that reads this report, furnishes a copy to the physician and to the practical nurse. So I don't know why it would be really any different. You know, when I see people like the hospital associations and Emory, where we train our doctors, or Emory Medical School, in favor of this bill, and we're the only place in the nation not doing it, I think we got a problem.
Thank you. Will the senator further yield?
Sure.
So, Senator, it's based on what I've asked in terms of exposure to radiation, that it doesn't play a part in this legislation at all, because the physician, as I'm understanding you to say, is making certain that what the protocols are currently done, the nurse is just carrying it out. I'm trying to understand why we even need
that is correct. They don't have to track the physician down. They've got a litany of what they can and cannot do, and they're not going to deviate from that, or else they got a malpractice situation. So it's been specified what they can do. Let me give you an example. I went in, I had seizures a couple of years ago, okay? And some people would say, was it life-threatening? I don't really know. But I'll tell you right now, I'm glad somebody was there to do CAT scans and MRIs on me. And if they had to wait for some doctor, fortunately I was in the metro area, but if they had to wait for some doctor to organize it, who knows? You might be blessed, I might not be here.
Thank you, Senator. One last question. The exposure is what I'm getting at, because in addition to my health challenges and having to have different type procedures, including dental, I guess where I'm coming from, because recently I was hearing, and this was on TV, where you're getting all these new indications about exposure to radiation.
Right.
I'm just trying to ask that in doing these things and then ordering these tests, I'm hearing you say the doctor would have had to order the test.
He would have a protocol with this person, okay? I don't think no one here can tell you how much radiation in your particular case. I don't have that answer. You know, it's like me going through the airport scanners. There's a question like whether my cell phone, I don't have that particular answer. But I do know this, we're the only state in the nation not allowing this. It's an agreement between the physician and between the nurse, okay? It's allowed from that. The radiologist reads it. All these organizations, the only people that are against this, from my knowledge, were the medical association, okay, and the radiologists, but they're still going to be the ones that read the reports. And I don't think this is going to have that serious an impact on how much radiation a particular individual gets.
Thank you, Senator.
You're more than welcome.
Chair recognizes Senator from 21st for a question.
Senator Yield.
Yes, sir.
Are you familiar with defensive medicine?
Yes, I am.
Further Yield.
Sure.
Do you believe this will increase the practice of defensive medicine?
Well, Senator, I would say this to you based upon the testimony we heard on your particular bill. I do think in many cases we have too many tests run, but I will tell you from personal experience, when people are ordering MRIs, it can be pretty serious, but you don't know that. And somebody's make the call that it's life-threatening. And they don't know that until they get you in there and shake you up in the machine, because I've been there, and they never did find out what caused it, okay? So if somebody decided that wasn't life-threatening, I could have died. So to answer your question, these are the kind of tests maybe we should be doing. And you and I both know that defensive medicine does a lot for increasing costs of medical care. I don't think that's the issue here when we're doing this in every other state, not just in Georgia. Yes, sir.
Chair recognizes Senator from 33rd for a question.
Senator Yield.
Yes, sir.
Senator, isn't it true that the nurse and the doctor have protocols where the nurse has all the advantages of understanding your previous medical history?
That's correct.
Isn't it true a person such as I who had cancer and have had radiation treatments, isn't it true that most times a nurse or radiologist carries it out in the first place?
I think to answer your question, I think many times we go to see a doctor under any circumstances, we maybe never see the doctor.
That's right. Isn't it true that MRIs and PET scans and things of that nature have been one of the new things in science over the last quarter century that have saved thousands of lives?
That is correct.
Thank you.
Chair recognizes Senator from 36 for a question.
Thank you, Mr. President. Senator Yield.
Yes, ma'am.
To my fellow colleague on the Health and Human Services Committee, has it been made abundantly clear that this is permissive legislation that permits a physician to delegate to an advanced practice nurse?
That's a great point. The physician has to voluntarily sign up to do this with a protocol. It is a physician's decision, not the nurse's decision. That's an excellent point. And I would remind you also, this body passed this bill last year. Now what has happened in the past year, I would ask people, that would change their minds, other than perhaps some pressure from somebody out there in those ropes? Go ahead, I'm sorry.
Brother Yield. And that precisely to that point, lines 24, 25, and 26 state very specifically that this would grant the authority for a physician to delegate to an advanced practice registered nurse. He may delegate, she may delegate, not compelled to delegate. Isn't that true?
That is correct. The word is may delegate, not shall
That's
delegate.
right.
Absolutely correct.
Thank you.
You are more than welcome.
Chair recognizes Senator from 56 for a question.
Thank you, Mr. President. With Senator Yield?
Yes, sir.
Senator, isn't it true that in those 49 other states, they've seen efficiencies and savings, and that's why it's important for Georgia to adopt this law?
Senator, I would say to you that based upon your experience in life-threatening situations as a fireman, you probably understand this better than I do, and I will take your word for that statement.
Thanks, Senator.
No further questions, Senator.
Mr. President, thank you so much.
Chair recognizes distinguished chair of the Health Committee, Senator from the 45th.
Thank you, Mr. President, members of the Senate. I rise in support of Senate Bill 94, and I understand there's a lot of discussion about this particular bill, but I think the discussion that has been had here has been very productive, and it brings to light. You're exactly right. This bill passed this chamber last year overwhelmingly. Also, the senator from the 56th asked the question about whether this increases the number of testing in the state of Georgia. Statistics and studies show that across the nation, that where this has been implemented, that the number of testing does not go up. It does not go up. These tests are going to be done anyway, whether they're ordered by the nurse-doctor protocol agreement or by the physician singularly. The question was raised about that protocol agreement by the senator from the 36th, and you're exactly right. It is a voluntary protocol agreement between the doctors and the physician, and that is exactly why the only physician in this chamber, and I'm using him, from the senator from the 11th, agrees with this doctor-nurse protocol, because these nurses are called extenders. Unfortunately, in rural Georgia and even in the urban settings, we do not have enough physicians to see the population. And especially in the rural areas, you do not have enough physicians. That is why Hometown Health and the Association of Community Hospitals that are located in these rural areas have signed on board to this, because they know there is a deficiency. I have to also say that the Georgia Nurses Association supports this bill, and if you do not know, there are over 100,000 nurses in the state of Georgia, and they agree with this. As I don't get up here much and ask y'all for much. I know the vaccine bill was another bill that was controversial. I did not come up here and ask you and tell you my opinion. You voted as you chose. I am asking you on this specific bill, Senate Bill 94. This bill passed the Health and Human Services Committee unanimously. So I'm asking you as the chairman of the Health Committee to please vote for this bill. Mr. President, I'll yield for any questions.
Chair recognizes Senator from 56 for a question.
Thank you, President. Will the senator yield?
Yes.
Senator, isn't it true you're familiar with my district and I have an extraordinary amount of doctors in North Fulton County?
Yes, you do, and I have an extraordinary amount. I have some wonderful physicians in the whole north section of Atlanta. Yes, sir.
And isn't it further true that I've communicated with this group and they all resoundingly support this bill and agree that it will be a good thing for patients, for doctors, nurses, and healthcare in general?
If you so state, sir, I believe that you're exactly right, and I do go and speak to many of your groups in your particular area. Yes, sir.
Thank you for your service.
No questions, Senator.
Thank you, Mr. President. I yield the will, and I ask for your favorable consideration on Senate Bill 94.
Does any other senator wish to speak for or against the bill? Is there objection? Grant report of committee which fail pass the bill. Chair hears none. All of those in favor of the bill will vote aye. Those opposed no. Secretary will unlock the machine. Chair recognizes the senator from the 10th to recognize some very special guests in the gallery.
Thank you, Mr. President, and members of this body. Up in the balcony, we have a total of 37 students from the University of Pennsylvania. They're from the Greenfield Intercultural Exchange Center at the University of Pennsylvania. And this is the Penn Alliance that's here, and they travel all over the South studying. If I could just get them to stand up and get them recognized, please. There's Valerie up there. Y'all stand up for a moment, please. Welcome to the State Senate in Georgia.
On Senate Bill 94, the yeas are 28, nays are 19, and the bill failing to receive requisite constitutional majority is therefore failed. Chair recognizes Senator from the 40th.
Like to move for reconsideration, Mr. President.
You have that right, and we will, it's no less than for reconsideration.
Right now. It's right now. I did.
Just so we're clear, you do have the option of moving for reconsideration. If reconsideration is sustained, technically it goes to the general calendar, which doesn't have the ability to be heard today. Without suspending the rules.
Okay. Parliamentary inquiry, Mr. Speaker.
State your inquiry.
Mr. President, may I ask to suspend the rules?
Well, I think first you would want to ask for reconsideration.
All right, we'll do the reconsideration first, please.
All right. The senator has moved for reconsideration of SB 94. All those in favor of reconsideration of their actions will vote yea, and those opposed, nay. Secretary will unlock the machine. Chair recognizes Senator from the 45th.
Mr. President, as the chairman of the Health Committee, is it not true that I would ask for reconsideration?
The
Senator
has that right.
And is it not true that I would ask to suspend the rules after that?
I know the senator certainly has that right. Chair recognizes Senator from 33rd.
Mr. President, isn't it true that normally we give a committee chairman, when a vote is that close, the ability to at least reconsider?
I think that's been a customary procedure. On the reconsideration motion, the yeas are 34 and the nays are 15. The Senate has reconsidered its action. Senator from the 40th is recognized. The senator from the 40th is moved to suspend the rules so the Senate can reconsider or take up its action of SB 94. Is there objection? There is objection. All those in favor of suspending the rule to allow SB 94 to be voted on today will vote aye. Those opposed, no. Secretary will unlock the machine. This is a 2/3 vote in order to suspend the rule in order for this bill to be heard again. Chair recognizes Senator from the 45th.
Parliamentary inquiry.
State your inquiry.
Is it not true that as the chairman of the Senate Health Committee, I asked for the favorable support to suspend these rules?
Senator has that right. It would go to the foot of the calendar. On the motion to suspend the rules, in order for this to be heard, needing 38 votes, it has 37 votes and 12 nay votes, and the Senate has elected not to suspend the rule. What purpose does the Senator from the 19th rise?
Parliamentary inquiry.
State your inquiry.
Is it possible to reconsider the rule to suspend?
I don't think so. The limits have been pushed before, but that one is probably a little bit hard to find a narrow opening.
Mr. President.
Chair recognizes the member of the 19th. What purpose you rise?
Mr. President, some years ago when we were in the minority, there was a motion to reconsider the reconsideration of the reconsideration.
Yeah. I remember those days. We were in the minority. It's a stretch. I mean, it's a stretch. And we're setting a pretty bad precedent. We've given every... That's setting a really bad precedent. No, it's a Senate bill, so it's technically dead. Yes. Suspend the rule in order to take it up. No, I made it pretty clear. I mean, the conclusion. I think we just need to, Renee, I think you need to be here to break it back.
I can't believe my own caucus can't support the chairman as much as I did. And it's Mullins and that bunch that against me. And you know.
Well, hold on. Where was the vote? What was the vote? It was 37 to 11. All right, listen, this is the posture by which we're in. It's a very, 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 very narrow opening to reconsider have another reconsideration of suspending the rules. The first one was to suspend the rules. Then you would have a motion to reconsider suspending the rules, and then you would then have a motion to suspend the rules. Hold on. Does everybody understand the posture by which you would be in by doing so? Senator from the 26, what purpose you rise?
Point of order.
State your inquiry.
Mr. President, isn't it true that the rule, there was a motion to suspend, there was a motion for reconsideration. That motion passed. Then there was a motion to suspend the rules so that it could be placed on the calendar and voted again on because today is crossover day rather than go back to the rules and be placed back on the calendar.
That is correct.
That motion failed.
Correct.
How do you reconsider the motion that just failed?
It's a narrow, very narrow opening, but technically the Senate could reconsider its actions to suspend the rule. The Senate did reconsider its actions on the bill, but in order to take the bill up, you would have to suspend the rule. To suspend the rule failed. You can reconsider your action
on failing to give it what it needed in order to be placed on the calendar.
Yes.
All right, Mr. Speaker.
So this is
not Mr. Speaker, Mr. President.
Okay. So, Senator from the 41st, what purpose do you rise?
Is it true that by suspending the rules, we can do the order of business however we want? So at any time, if you recognize a person to suspend the rules and that motion is carried by a 2/3 vote, that action would be then placed as the actionable item. So even though a motion to suspend the rules doesn't need to be reconsidered, a separate motion to suspend the rules done anytime during today, if done an hour from now, and we move to suspend the rules on Senate Bill 94, although the rules say that we cannot do those things, the suspension of the rules would allow us to do it at any time that you would recognize.
No, I don't agree with that. This is the posture by which we're in, okay? I am going to allow the senator from the 40th to make a motion to reconsider its actions on suspending the rule. That is not a 2/3 vote, that is a majority vote to reconsider its actions on suspending the rule. If that is sustained, then the body would have the opportunity to vote again for a 2/3 vote to suspend the rule. If that is not upheld, then the bill fails. Senator from the 22nd, what purpose do you rise?
Point of order, Mr. President.
State your inquiry.
Mr. President, is it not true that the superior motion would be the motion to rescind instead of ask for reconsideration? To rescind from the previous motion that was taken?
No, would not be it. The posture that we're in is as I just stated. Senator from the 40th is recognized. Senator from the 40th is recognized.
Mr. President, I ask that the Senate reconsider its motion to suspend the rules.
The senator is moving, everybody follow me, for reconsideration of suspending the rules. All those in favor will vote aye. Those opposed, no. Secretary will unlock the machine. Okay, on the motion to suspend the Senate rules, the yeas are 32, the nays are 14. The Senate has reconsidered its action to suspend the rule. Now, the question is on now a 2/3 vote to suspend the rule. All of those in favor? I need a motion from the senator from the 45th.
And I ask to suspend the Senate rules as the chairman of the Senate Health Committee. And I ask my colleagues to vote with me.
All those in favor will vote aye. Those opposed, no. Secretary will unlock the machine. On the motion to reconsider suspending the rules, the yeas are 38 and the nays are 9, and the Senate has suspended the rules in order to take up Senate Bill 94, which will go to the bottom of the calendar to be taken up today. Unless somebody moves to adjourn. We already have a motion. No. Chair recognizes Senator on 31st.
Parliamentary inquiry.
State your inquiry.
So it takes 2/3 votes to suspend the rules. How many votes does it take to put them back in place?
Well, we just suspended the rule for that specific action. That was the motion. Secretary will read Senate Bill 121.
Senate Bill 121 by Senator Ramsey of the 43rd and others. A bill to be entitled an act to amend Article 3 of Chapter 2 of Title 40 of the OCGA relating to prestige license plates and special plates for certain persons and vehicles so as to provide for special license plates for retired members of the General Assembly and for other purposes. The Senate Committee on Public Safety recommends that this bill do pass. Through with the order, Mr. President.
Chair recognizes Senator from the 43rd to present the bill.
Thank you, Mr. President, ladies and gentlemen of the Senate. This morning we had the pleasure of having our former retired Senator Don Thomas, Dr. Thomas, here in the chamber with us. I bring to you Senate Bill 121, which would allow the General Assembly to honor those in our communities, those who have served in the General Assembly, with the ability to have a distinctive license plate that they would be required to pay for. I believe that on the board is a facsimile of the license plate that we would send over to the commissioner for their consideration. And many of you have had the opportunity to serve 10, 20, 30 years, and most members of our communities and your communities know you in your elective role, and this gives you the opportunity to continue to be honored in your community, as well as those who served in the military and armed forces. So, ladies and gentlemen, I will ask for your favorable consideration, and if there are no questions, Mr. President, I will yield the well.
Chair recognizes Senator from the 56th for a question.
Thank you, Mr. President. Will the senator yield?
I yield.
Senator, this is an outstanding plate. Isn't it true that many of us would like to change our new current plate to look just like this one, minus the retired?
I believe the senator knows of which he speaks.
Does no further questions, Senator?
Thank you.
Any other senator wish to speak for or against the bill? Is there objection? Grant report of committee which favor pass the bill. Chair is none. Report of committee is agreed to. All those in favor of the bill will vote aye. Those opposed, no. Secretary will unlock the machine. On the passage of the bill, the yeas are 34 and the nays are 12, and this bill, having received a constitutional majority, is therefore passed. Secretary will read an engrossed bill, Senate Bill 92.
Senate Bill 92 by Senator Ford of the 39th and others. A bill to be entitled an act to amend Article 5 of Chapter 13 of Title 48 of the OCGA relating to excise taxes on rental motor vehicles so as to add public transit to the authorized purposes for the proceeds of such tax and for other purposes. The Senate Committee on Urban Affairs recommends that this bill do pass. Through with the order, Mr. President.
Chair recognizes the senator from the 39th. Senator from the 39th is recognized. Present the bill.
Mr. President, members of the Senate, this is a very simple bill. Presently, a car rental excise tax can be used for promoting tourism and to build stadia. The only thing that this bill does, it doesn't raise the excise fee or tax. All it does is add public transit as one option in addition to using the car rental excise fee for stadia and promoting tourism. That's all it does, and I commend it to you. Mr. President, I'll yield the well unless there are questions.
Chair recognizes the senator from the 53rd for a question.
Thank you, Mr. President. Senator Yield.
I do for the senator from 53rd.
I want to thank you for bringing this bill to us today. This is an excellent bill. It doesn't raise any taxes. It just allows transit to be used in this already taxable allocation, correct?
You're exactly right.
Thank you again.
Thank you.
Chair recognizes Senator from the 49th for a question.
Does Senator Yield?
I most certainly do.
And it also, in keeping with the previous senator's statement about not raising taxes, it adds nothing else, no other taxes, correctly? Correct, no other taxes.
There's no tax increase involved in this whatsoever.
How about fees?
No.
One further question, sir.
Yes, sir.
Is this local control?
It is absolutely very local control.
Thank you, Senator.
Thank you.
Chair recognizes Senator from the 47th.
Thank you, Mr. President. With the senator yield,
I most certainly do.
as bad as I feel today, I want to make sure that this does not promote crime or in any way in any housing authority in the state.
And it most certainly doesn't promote it in public housing.
And I know those are some good folks that live in public housing, and we want to take care of them. Thank you, Senator.
You're very welcome. Thank you.
Chair recognizes Senator from the 49th.
Senator Yield.
Yes, sir.
One further question, really
Yes, sir.
quickly. Is this a Republican bill?
It is a bipartisan bill.
Thank you, Senator.
In any way does this support the Affordable Care Act? I was just, you know. All right, no
comment.
No further questions.
All right.
No further questions. Does any other senator wish to speak for or against the bill? Is there objection to agree in the Report of Committee which failed to pass the bill? Chairs none. Report of Committee is agreed to. All those in favor will vote aye. Those opposed, no. Secretary will unlock the machine. On the passage of the bill, the yeas are 45, the nays are 2. And the very distinguished senator from the 39th has passed an engrossed tax bill. Secretary will read Senate Bill 158.
Senate Bill 158 by Senator Orrick of the 36th and others. A bill to be entitled an act to amend Code Section 29-4-18 of the OCGA relating to definitions, requirements, and termination of temporary medical consent guardianship and for other purposes. The Senate Committee on Health and Human Services recommends that this bill do pass. Through with the order, Mr. President.
Chair recognizes Senator from the 36th.
Thank you, Mr. President. The hour is late, and I won't linger long here. This is the shortest bill you'll have before you this year, I can almost promise you. Health and Human Services unanimously passed this bill, which simply corrects a drafting error. Last year, in its wisdom, the General Assembly indicated in law that the Department of Public Health will develop and make available a physician order for life-sustaining treatment. That's simply a form that informs the health providers what are the wishes of the patient. When the drafting was done, the form is supposed to be voluntarily executed by a patient or that patient's authorized representative and a physician. And the form contains directions regarding end-of-life care. The drafting area that we're correcting is changing "and" to "or" so that the patient's designated authorized health care advocate or representative can participate in lieu of the patient's ability to do so. I recommend this bill to you, and it was brought to us by hospitals who pointed out that their hands are tied without this correction. Thank you very much. I'd appreciate your favorable support. Yield the way, Mr. President.
You two never want to answer each other's questions. It's the dangest thing. Does any other senator wish to speak for or against the bill? Is there objection? Agree and report to committee which favor will pass the bill. Chairs none. Report to committee is agreed to. All those in favor will vote aye. Those opposed, no. Secretary will unlock the machine. On the passage of the bill, the yeas are 48 and the nays are 0, and this bill, having serious constitutional majority, is therefore passed. Secretary will read Senate Bill 178.
Senate Bill 178 by Senator Miller of the 40th. A bill to be entitled an act to amend Article 6 of Chapter 6 of Title 47 of the OCGA relating to retirement, retirement allowances, and death benefits under the Georgia Legislative Retirement System so as to define a certain term and for other purposes. The Senate Committee on Retirement recommends that this bill do pass by substitute. The Senate Retirement Committee offers the following substitute to Senate Bill 178. A bill to be entitled an act to amend Article 6 of Chapter 6 of Title 47 of the OCGA relating to retirement, retirement allowances, and death benefits under the Georgia Legislative Retirement System so as to define a certain term and for other purposes. Through with the order, Mr. President.
Chair recognizes the senator from the 40th present the bill.
Thanks, Mr. President. This is a cleanup bill for retirement. What we've done in Section 1 is simply to make sure we're in compliance with federal income tax provisions. We've taken language on page 3, definition of a public employer, and moved it from page 3 to the top of page 2. We in the legislature are the only ones that are allowed to come back in government service and continue to receive our full retirement as legislators, even if we work more than 1,040 hours. We're the only ones that are allowed to do that, even if we haven't reached the normal retirement age. And that's what the bill does.
Chair recognizes Senator on the 41st for a question.
Senator Yield.
Yes, sir.
So, Senator, right now, other state employees can come back and get that retirement benefit, buy back into the plan. And this is prohibiting other state employees from doing that?
Senator, I'm sorry, I couldn't hear you.
No. All right, let's get the chamber quieting down just for a moment. I know everybody's anxious to get finished up, but please give the senator respect. Listen to the senator asking questions.
So this bill is prohibiting state employees, excluding legislators, from getting back into the benefit program that they presently can?
No, what this does is all state employees, they cannot work more than 1,040 hours. They're not allowed to do that, or else they forfeit their retirement pay if they come back. Legislators can, and we don't have to reach our normal retirement age. And we're the only branch of government that does this. And I think it's because we get paid so little. Is probably why, from a retirement perspective. And the other thing is he moved language from section 3 to page 3 to page 2, because the legislative council thought it should be there for what a public employer is, but this didn't change the language at all.
I'm still confused on the intent. Then what does this do?
Intent is the legislator can come back without reaching the normal retirement age, okay, work for another department, and still receive his retirement pay as a legislator after his 8 years of vesting.
Okay, I thought that had been the case, but no.
Yeah. I yield the well, Mr.
Questions on the adoption of the committee substitute. Is there objection? Without objection, committee substitute is adopted. Does any other senator wish to speak for or against the bill? Is there objection? Granted, report of committee which favor passage of the bill. The chair is none. Report of committee is agreed to. All those in favor will vote aye. Those opposed, no. Secretary will unlock the machine. On the passage of the bill, the yeas are 47 and the nays are 3, and this bill, having received Rex constitutional majority, is therefore passed. We are now back in the posture of taking up SB 94. Secretary will read.
Senate Bill 94 by Senator Miller, the 40th, and others. A bill to be entitled an act to amend Code Section 43-34-25 of the OCGA relating to delegation of certain medical acts to advanced practice registered nurses and for other purposes. The Senate Committee on Health and Human Services recommends that this bill do pass. Through with the order, Mr. President.
Chair recognizes Senator from the 40th. This bill has been debated, but the author will have his time in the well.
Thank you, Mr. President. I appreciate everyone's indulgence and ask your favorable consideration.
Senator from the 45th is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. President. When I looked at the roll call vote, there were several people that did not vote, and I would ask for each of the caucuses to please get your members and ask them to please come to the floor and to please vote favorably for Senate Bill 94. Thank you very much, and I'll yield the well.
Does any other senator wish to speak for or against the bill? Is the objection agreed? The Porter Committee which favor pass the bill. Chairs none. The Porter Committee is agreed to. All those in favor will vote aye. Those opposed, no. Secretary will unlock the machine. On SB 94, the yeas are 31, the nays are 18. This bill, having gone through a marathon, has therefore been passed. Who did you give to, Sheriff? Before we adjourn, let me just say we have some wonderful pages that have been with us all day. Kip Maddox, John Massengill, Bethany Morris, Mallory Morris, Haley Earhart, Madison Earhart are all here with us. Thank you all very, very much. All right. Thank you all. Good day's work. That's what. No substitute for a good work ethic. We appreciate y'all very, very much. Chair recognizes the President Pro Tem.
The Senate stand in recess until midnight tonight, then pursuant to House Resolution 548, stand adjourned until 10 a.m. Monday, March the 11th.
President Pro Tem is moved. All those in favor will say aye. All those opposed, no. Ayes clearly have it. We stand adjourned.